My father's first wife passed away when she was pretty young, and it was a. I'll never forget the story he told me. So he had three children with his first wife. I'm the product of his second marriage after his first wife passed away, and he told me the story of what happened, which was she got struck by cancer. I believe it was bone cancer, which is a very difficult and painful type of form of cancer. But and her health was failing, and my father was not in Korea. He was actually, I believe it was in France, because he got a scholarship to study there. And so he was not in Korea, and he got word that his wife was basically her time was running out, and that he should think about coming back to Korea so that he could be with his wife and children when she passed away. And the challenge he had was that if he had left his studies at school, the university he was attending there for engineering, he wouldn't get his certification, and as a result, he wouldn't be able to have a livelihood, a way to, and he'd been studying really hard and working so that he could have a good job and make good money so that he could support his kids, because he came from such a poor family that was one of his goals in life. And that was the thing, right? Like, should he stay and not be able to be by his wife when she passed away and finish his schooling and get the certificate, or should he come back to Korea? And he told me he made the difficult decision to stay and finish his schooling and get the certificate. And I'll never forget that story, because it really struck me, right? I mean, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes, and I just can't even fathom, well, first of all, having to make such a decision, being struck with bad news like that, and then to finish studying because he wanted to make sure he would be able, he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to, he was so close to getting the certificate, he didn't want to jeopardize his ability to provide for his family, and not just his immediate family, but also his, brothers and sisters, because they didn't get a chance to go to school. His parents were so poor that they only sent him and his elder brother to school, and they had like 8 brothers and sisters. And so, the 2 that they did send to school, they hoped would do well and be able to help later on in life with the rest of the family. And so with that responsibility on his shoulders, he decided to stay. And he never saw his wife pass away. And that's a sad thing. It really is. But it really impacted me, because I saw through him an example of how, with all the difficulties with not being there for your family for a greater purpose and all that, and to help them eventually, how he weathered on. And then he was a single father with 3 children, and somehow he got lucky and found my mom, who was able to and willing to take in 3 children from another woman and have me as her only child biologically. And so my brothers and sisters are half brothers and sisters, and we get along, and it's all good. But it was only because my father was able to weather on and build what he built that we're here like this today. And the reason I bring this story up is because I'm going through something similar, but I mean, nowhere near the difficulty that my father faced, for sure. But there are days like today where I really miss my family. They're not here. I'm here in Singapore, and I go on business trips to try and help build FOFD, and between also here and Bali, I don't see them all the time. I see them like half the time, and I don't try to stay away for more than 2 weeks max without seeing them. So like every couple of weeks I'm there, so I'm still able to interact and watch them and help teach them grow up. But this time was a little bit longer because I had a business trip in between, and so today is a Sunday, and I just feel yeah, I feel a little sad, right, that I'm not there with them. And the, video conferences and calling on the phone and WhatsApp, Zoom, only goes so far. And that brings me to these concerns I have. I'm not going to lie, they creep up, right? Like, hey, am I doing the right thing? They're young children. Shouldn't I be there with them 100% of the time? You know, I I I run into this especially when I stay away from them for longer than 2 weeks, like today. And I was going to record something completely different today to share on YouTube about the channel and Fofty, but I figured I'd just share, as it comes, some of the emotions and the reality, essentially, of trying to build something and the sacrifices you have to make. And this is, in our case, one of them. Now, I know this is not permanent. This is temporary. We have a set timetable on how long we're going to live like this, and that's into next year. And so I do have comfort knowing that there is a pathway and this is not the end game. And so I know that much. I also know that I'm not jeopardizing my children's ability to live and eat and go to school, because I have worked hard, following my father's footsteps, to be able to provide for my family. And so they are in a place that's good, right? And even though I'm not a mega millionaire, I have accumulated enough and put into investments where I can do this Fofty thing and also at least provide for them for a decent amount of runtime without really worrying too much about, their livelihood in that sense. But at the same time, money doesn't buy the time you spend with your children, especially when they're young. And so that's the part. That is, if you ask me, the ultimate sacrifice I'm making here. And it crops up. It crops up from time to time, whether or not this is the right choice. So the reason I'm recording this is not only to share with anybody watching this how sacrifices need to be made if you're going to be doing something that's fulfilling. There's no fulfillment if there's no sacrifice made and no hardship. They just go hand in hand. And for me, this is the sacrifice. But I'm also recording this so that, just like how my father shared with me, that I can also share with my children later, if they ever watch this video, that they know their father, me. This is not something I enjoy. I'm not going out partying every day and while I'm here alone in Singapore and having a blast or whatever. I'm here busting my chops, trying to do what I can to build this company, to network, and to provide a legacy for you that will hopefully extend beyond my lifetime. And it's something that you can use to your advantage and build yourselves. And I want you to know that this is not easy for me. And it's not easy because I'm not with you. Yeah. So I just want you to know that and hear it from me. And it's not something I can easily say, but it's something that is immensely important that I convey to you, because I'm not going to be around forever, but hopefully this will. Now, the other thing is, yes, you need to have sacrifice, and you need to have difficulty in achieving and striving for something, because again, if it's handed to you in a silver platter, that's not fulfillment. And the ultimate goal for me and my wife, Jamie, is that we do something together, and we build something together, a legacy for our children, and that's what we do until the end of our lives, essentially. And so I have belief in that. I have faith in that. That's something that matters to us. And the other track would be to just be able to spend time with my children while having a corporate job. But am I really spending time with my children if I'm having a corporate job, though? Because I'm going to be so busy at that company, I'm not even going to be there for my kids all the time, because I'll be working until 6, 7, 8 p.m. and on weekends stressing about Monday. and maybe physically I'm there, but mentally I'm not. The one thing I can say now is I'm with my children mentally whenever I'm physically there with them, 110%, especially in a weird way because I'm not there all the time. Now when I'm with them, I value it so much, and I treasure them in that sense. And so I'm mentally always there when I'm with them. And so there's no guarantee that if I just stayed in a corporate job that I'd be mentally there with them, right? You just physically be there, but you're checked out because you're so busy with your corporate job. And that's something that happens to many people. And that's not something that I wanted to have in my life, at least. And so there's no shortage of, I'm sure there's, I don't know, who knows in the comments or whatever, but there's no shortage of naysayers saying I'm doing the wrong thing, I'm an evil guy, I'm a bad father for not being there 100% of the time with my children and taking my time away from them. And I'm sure my father had his share of naysayers as well, saying that what he was doing was wrong and bad, and he was a bad man for not being there for his wife at such a time. And he told me that his wife at the time said that he should stay abroad and finish his study for the sake of the family. That's what he said she told him at that time. And so he faced, I'm sure, whatever I'm facing times 100. And it's only because I know he did that and he was strong enough to do that I can even consider to try and be anywhere near as strong as my father. And the hope here is that by showing I have some of that strength, that my children can see this and in turn also get some strength for themselves in the future, and thus the legacy. And so having said that, I just want anybody who's going through sacrifice right now, pursuing something that they believe is right, that they, have determined is their purpose and how they're going to be fulfilled in life, that, the sacrifice is necessary, but, at the same time, like I don't spend more than 2 weeks or try to not spend more than 2 weeks away from my kids as my sacrifice. And also, so yes, you can sacrifice, but it should be commiserate with what's going on, right? Like the ultimate sacrifice my father had to make was not seeing his wife pass away, but that was like that type of a situation, right? You don't go there unless that type of situation arises, and so yes, you must sacrifice, but make sure it's balanced and that you don't over sacrifice for the sake of it, right? There's always a trade-off and a balance that you have to play. So I hope this message has some ears for anybody watching. And thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.